Hello everyone, welcome to the channel of Tradeometry. I'm Mr. X. Are we finally seeing the top of the market? Microsoft and Meta earnings were not enough to pump the market, and Amazon and Apple just released their earnings. Let's all break it down. Hello everyone, today is July 31st. So we had a blowout earning from Microsoft and Meta yesterday. However, the QQQ closed red today. QQQ is down 0.6% today, and it QQQ opened up over 1% and closed down minus 0.6%. That's a pretty big dump, almost a 2% dump intraday. So what is happening? Meta and Microsoft are very green today, but the rest of the market are bleeding all the way till the closing bell. What is going on? Are we finally selling the last bit of good news? Even Nvda was up over 3% at the open and closed down 1%. In my opinion, what Jerome Powell said yesterday finally started to kick into the market, and investors finally realizing Fed is not going to cut rate in September, or maybe even for the rest of the year. So we need some repricing. We see all the major stock index close red today, and the VIX is up 8% today. That's not a good sign. Again, VIX breaking out of the $16 range and closing above $16. And given the amount of events we're gonna have for tomorrow, if something goes wrong, the market could have a real pullback. I don't know how big of a pullback are we going to get, because in this market it's really difficult to predict. And last night I just thought we're gonna have a super green day in QQQ. Everything was up. The semiconductors was up. All the mega caps were up. QQQ was up over 1.3% pre-market, and we dump it all the way back to closed red. I think this is a very clear warning sign we may have seen the top of the market, including QQQ, including SPY. And the weakest of all is obviously the small cap IWM. I believe the sentiment is shifting. The momentum stocks are fading. And Robinhood also had a very good earning last night. However, it's down 3% today. So basically, market is starting to sell all the good news. And tomorrow we're gonna have the non-farm payroll, and we're gonna have the tariff deadline. And I believe Trump also made an announcement regarding to the Mexico trade deal. And I don't know what other deals they're gonna have. Do we get another taco trade for tomorrow, or do we just do another head fake and bounce right back to all-time highs? That's also a possibility. So you never say never, right? Anything can happen in this market. This is a very extremely event-driven market. It's an extremely sentiment-driven market. And all thanks to Trump, he's been basically manipulating the whole market for the past 3 months, with his trade talks, with his tariff threats, and with all his policy changes, the big beautiful bill. This is a very difficult market to trade. For right now, I am raising cash to wait for the opportunity to make big bets. I am leaning towards a further pullback for the next couple weeks, but everything is day to day. Every day could be any news coming out to reverse the entire narrative completely. So, but we'll see. And let's get into the earnings. So we have a lot of earnings coming out today. So Apple just released earning. So it was better than expected. Revenue of 94 billion versus the estimate of 89 billion, which is about 4% beat on the top line. EPS $1 57 and beating estimate of $1.43, plus 12% year over year. The Greater China area revenue is 15.37 billion, up 4% year over year. The iPhone sales 44.85 billion, beating estimate of 40 billion, up 13% year over year. I believe this is the first growth quarter year over year for Apple for like maybe in 2 or 3 years, which is a good sign. And we see Mac is have some growth and iPad down 8%. And so everything else is not really important. So it's really the big part is the iPhone sale up 13% year over year and the total revenue up 10% year over year. So and I think Wall Street likes it. I believe Apple is up after market. So Apple is slightly green after market. And let's talk about Cloudflare. Revenue 512 million, up 28% year over year. EPS 21 cents, beating estimate of 18 cents. Net income 75 million, beating estimate of 67.5 million. The guidance is 1.1 billion, slightly better than the expectation. EPS is 85 to 87, 85 to 86 cents, beating estimate of 80 cents. The revenue guidance is 543 to 544.5 million, beating estimate of 539 million. The EPS is 23 cents, beating estimate of 21 cents. So this was the full year guidance, and this was the Q3 guidance. RKT, Rocket Company. So it's beating estimate, adjusted revenue 1.34 billion, beating estimate of 1.27 billion, up 9% year over year. The EPS also EPS 4 cents, beating estimate of 0.026 cents, even though it's down 33% year over year, but it's beating the expectation. The adjusted EBITDA is 172 million, beating estimate of 129 million. Guidance of Q3 guidance, adjusted revenue 1.6 to 1.75 billion. Rocket Mortgage doing pretty good. Cloudflare was up pretty nicely after hour at 8%. Um, uh, I believe Rocket Mortgage is also up about 7% after market. Very, very nice. I actually have some Rocket Mortgage share in my other account, so it's doing very nicely. Coinbase revenue 1.5 billion, a missing estimate of 1.59 billion, down 26% year over year. That's not good. EPS, that's a little weird. It's $5.14 versus the estimate of $1.51. I'm not sure if this is just like a one-time adjustment of some kind of one-time income. It doesn't look right because the you see the revenues down and the EPS is beating by that much. So usually means some like one-time income revenue. Total trading volume is down 40% year over year. And that's not good. 223 billion, missing estimate of 253 billion. Transaction revenue also missing expectation, 764 million, missing estimate of 810 million. The subscription revenue and service also missing expectation. So Coinbase is not looking good, down year over year in a lot of the metrics, and the market doesn't like it. It's down over 6% after market. Reddit, we have the revenue almost 500 million, up 78% year over year, beating estimate of 427 million. EPS 45 cents, beating estimate of 20 cents. Daily active user 110 million, up 21% year over year. That's great numbers. Great number across the board. Q3 guidance 535 million to 545 million, beating estimate 472 million. That's way over the estimate. So that's a huge beat. And also adjusted EBITDA also a huge beat. The midpoint is 190 million. The expectation was 160 million. So that's like another over 20% beat on EBITDA guidance of Q3 guidance. So these are great metrics. Was up a lot year over year, 79% year over year in revenue. Uh, the ad revenue up 84% year over year. Net income 89 million versus it was minus 10 million last year. So the net income went from minus 10 million to plus 89 million. That's awesome. Gross margin is 90%. Wow. Adjusted EBITDA, 167 million. So Reddit really have a blowout quarter. These numbers are unbelievable. Wow. Reddit up 23% after market. Roku, revenue 1.1 billion, beating estimate of 1.07 billion. EPS 7 cents, beating estimate of minus 16 cents. That's a great number. Net income 10 million versus estimate of minus 34 million. Actually, minus 34 million was last year. So that's a huge growth. Free cash flow up 23% year over year. Gross profit up 17% year over year. Adjusted EBITDA over 79% year over year. Nice. Streaming hours up 5.2 billion hours year over year. That's great. Looks like Roku had a very good quarter. So was okay, it was flat after market. But I think Roku delivered a very nice quarter. I think it's probably because Roku has gone up a lot in the past 3 months. Yeah, it's almost doubled already. It was flat after market. And Amazon sales 167 billion, beating estimated 162 billion, up 13% year over year. EPS $1.68, beating estimated $1.33. The operating income 19.2 billion, beating estimated of 16.7 billion. AWS net sales 30 billion was right was basically in line with expectation, up 17% year over year. However, compared to what Microsoft Azure growth, Amazon's AWS revenue growth is much lower. But compared to Microsoft Azure cloud revenue growth was 39% year over year. AWS only delivered a 17.5 growth year over year. Is Amazon's 17.5 growth doesn't seem like that great now. So I think it all comes to what do you compare against. But nonetheless, Amazon delivered a great quarter. It was beat across the board, and also Q3 guidance, 174 to 179.5 billion, beating estimate of 173 billion. So it was a triple beat. However, uh, it was not as amazing of a beat. So yeah, Amazon is down 2% after market. Not saying it's definitely not a bad quarter, but it's just not a great quarter like Microsoft, especially when you can compare the AWS against the Azure cloud service. You will kind of feel like this may not be the best quarter that it can do. And let's quickly look at the economic data got released today in the morning. So the core PCE price at 0.3%, same as expected. Personal income 0.3%, slightly better than consensus of 0.2%. Personal spending 0.3%, slightly less than consensus of 0.4%. Um, Initial jobless claim, slightly less than the consensus of 118,000, and a continuous jobless claim at 1946,000, slightly less than the consensus, and everything else is not really important. But we do have a very important data point tomorrow, which is the non-farm payroll. And we have a lot of economic data tomorrow. The S&P Global Manufacturing PMI, ISM Manufacturing PMI, Michigan Consumer Sentiment. These are a lot of data coming out tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. That's all for today. Thank you. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.